Hey y'all, welcome to week 9 of your first year of drum lessons, Drumset edition. My name is Penny Larson and I am happy to welcome you to our lesson today. If this is your first time joining us, you might want to back up a few steps because we're going to pick up where we left off. This series is a series of drum lessons that are designed to mimic what it might be like to have private lessons with me. It's not a perfect corollary, but that's what I'm going for. That's the elevator pitch of the show. So today we're going to do a couple things. We're going to introduce a couple ideas, and we're going to talk about some more reading. And we're going to have a couple handouts, but we're going to do a couple things without handouts too. On our drum pad the other day, we worked on playing accents with our paradiddle patterns. And today we're going to apply those patterns to the drum set. And we're going to do that in a very kind of loose way. If you have the handout from the other day, you definitely don't need a handout for today. You probably don't need a handout for this today anyway, and I'm not going to give you one until next time. We'll talk about some more specific patterns. Today we're just going to talk about the concept. We've already done the first one. So last time we did the single paradiddle with accents moving around, right? So if I'm thinking down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, instead of thinking that, I'm going to take that up and down stroke and just move it around the drums. Right? Remember, paradiddles are right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So that was the single paradiddle. The double paradiddle and the triple paradiddle both have two variations. One has just one accent, and one has, in the case of the double paradiddle, two accents, and in the case of the triple paradiddle, three. Let's do the single accent of the double paradiddle first. So that's para, paradiddle, para, paradiddle. So it's a 6-note pattern, and we've got one accent at the very beginning. The other way to do the double paradiddle is with two accents. So every time I say pa, I'm going to play on a different drum. Para, paradiddle, para, paradiddle, para, paradiddle, para, paradiddle. Triple paradiddle, para, para, paradiddle, para, para, paradiddle. Like the single and double, has a one accent version, and that is accenting the first note of the pattern. Para, para, paradiddle, para, para, paradiddle. That sounds like this. And then a 3-note version where I'm going to accent or move all of the pas. So para, para, paradiddle, para, para, paradiddle. And finally, the paradiddle-diddle just has a one accent version. And I'm going to move that first note. And remember, we have a right-handed version and a left-handed version. So if the single paradiddle-diddle that leads with the right hand, you're only going to move your right hand to the floor tom. And then the mirror, we're going to move our left hand to the rack tom. So that's paradiddles moving the accents around the drum, where we're going to do something with them, put them in patterns. But for now, you can just work on them one at a time. And like everything else that we've been working on, if you want to work on just the single paradiddles, if you're feeling like, oh, this is plenty for me to work on, that's totally cool, right? Everything builds on itself, so you don't have to go at the same speed as anyone else. And sometimes you don't even have to do things in the same order as anyone else, right? If you fall in love with the double paradiddle or the paradiddle-diddle, say, and you want to focus on those, that's fine, right? So don't feel like if you're not getting every last little snippet of the material that you're somehow doing something wrong or failing. Just keep going at your own pace. Work hard, practice, but stay engaged, stay motivated too. Don't burn yourself out by trying to do everything all at once. Okay, remember, we're going at a very quick pace because I am assuming that you are a perfect student, and there isn't any such thing, right? So go at your own human pace and don't worry about being a perfect student. The next thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to expand on that idea of the open hi-hat that we did last time. We did that disco beat, right? You play both feet, and then you just add your hands on top with that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're going to take one of those open hi-hats and do it at the end of a measure. So we're going to play our left foot on 1 and only on 1, and we're going to open it on the and after 4. Our bass drum, we're still going to play on all 4 quarter notes. So our feet are going to go like this: together, right, 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 together, right, right, right. And then same thing, we're going to put our hands together with the 8th notes on the right hand and 2 and 4 on the snare drum. And that sounds like this. no matter how fast you're playing the beat, you want to make sure that you open your left foot about on the and. You'll know, right? This is all about, we talked about this last time, it's all about making the hi-hat sound, you know, psst, have a nice sizzle. You don't want to open it too much, you don't want to open it not enough, and that's a feel thing. You just have to listen, and you'll know, you'll say, oh, this sounds like when Penny was doing it, this is right, because when I do it, it's right. No, seriously though, right? You'll have to experiment. Maybe you like it a little bit more sizzly than me, or a little bit less, right? There isn't, I'm going to say this to you all the time, there isn't a right way. There's a way that you think sounds good. There's probably ways that are kind of really outside what's typical. And if you're going to do something that's really outside what's typical, I'd like it if you got at least a little comfortable with the typical way before you start going wild. You know, some people go wild right from the beginning and they become like Keith Moon, right? So, I mean, even there, if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. But since you're watching these videos, probably you're interested in what is typical. There's two great examples of this pattern to practice. One is Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2 by Pink Floyd from the Wall album. And the other is Hella Good by No Doubt. The only difference is they play the pattern every other measure. So I'll show you that really quickly. And I think one of them, I forget which, one of them plays all 4 notes on the bass drum and one of them alternates with the snare drum. But the pattern basically is the same. It goes like this. So we don't need no. So it's a little faster than we were doing it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. And same thing as with the Paradiddles. I'm not going to give you a printout for that today. We're going to do some more patterns with the open hi-hat, and I'll give you a handout then. Okay. So now for the handouts we do have today, we're going to take the two handouts that we've done the last couple weeks, and everywhere there were eighth notes on the hi-hat, we're going to play quarter notes. And what that's going to do, we already did this a little bit with the We Will Rock You beat on that very first drum set handout that we had. But what this does is force you to play your right foot between the hi-hat notes. And so you have to have an independence. A word that we use a lot for drum set is independence and coordination, right? And you really need to be able to think of each limb as its own kind of thing, playing all over. You know, whether it's a giant drum set like mine or a really small drum set, you want to be able to have each limb making a musical statement. And here's our first step for that. So letter number 1 on drum set reading lesson 4, the 8th note with the bass drum that you've got is on the and after 2. So just really quickly, on 2, you're going to play your hand, both hands together, and then you're going to play the bass drum on the and then you're going to play your right hand and your right foot together on 3. So let's just do that. I'm going to play 2 and 3, 2 and 3. And the reason for that is if you're having trouble with any of these patterns, if you do them out of context, you take just the beat or beat and a half that's confusing and think about what it is as a physical pattern. Who cares about what it sounds like musically yet, right? If you can't do it physically, you can't do it musically, right? So figure out what it is physically and work on that just little building block, right? and then go back and put it together. So here's number 1 with that 2 and 3 in context. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, does the concept make sense? I'm picturing you nodding. Good. So I'm going to go through them a little bit more quickly. The explanation is the same, right? Anywhere there's a bass drum between your right hand, so on the offbeat 8th note, it's almost like you were playing a single stroke roll between your right hand and your right foot. And sometimes you'll need to play that note and the next note, or that note and the previous note. So sometimes it'll be this. Right? So together and then bass drum by itself. And then sometimes it'll be bass drum by itself and then together. So like this. But so that's really the only 3 ways to do this, right? If we're taking a group of 3 notes, right? So let's say 1 and 2, okay? We can either do, I guess there's 4. We can either do the bass drum on all 3, and the hi-hat are always going to be the 1st and 3rd, right? Because remember, this is 1 and 2, and we're playing quarter notes. So I could do all 3 with the bass drum, 1 and 2. I can do the first 2 with the bass drum. I can do the second 2 with the bass drum. I can do the quarter notes with the bass drum too, but we've already done that. That's easy, right? Or I can do just the middle one by itself. But those 4 elements are it, right? So we're working on these patterns so you can get some practice in how they work in a musical context. But the actual building block we're working from is pretty tackleable, right? Like you can pull that out of context and just work on the pieces if this is feeling too much. So let's play number 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 5, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And number 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that's the end of lesson 4. Before we go to lesson 5, let me just play through these really quickly. And yeah, I'll do like 4 times through each one and just go to the next one and a little bit quicker. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and at that faster tempo, that's much more common of when you're going to play quarter notes on the ride cymbal. You can do it at a slow tempo, definitely, but at a lot of times at slower tempos, there's more space to fill in, and so you do end up filling in more space. So you play like 8th notes or 16th notes just to keep the music flowing. But at a brighter tempo, at a quicker tempo, a lot of times that quarter note on the hi-hat can leave a little bit more room for other things to take the focus, right? The hi-hat, remember, the hi-hat is mostly a time-keeping voice, and so it's okay a lot of times if it drifts into the background and it's not, you know, the loudest thing in the drum kit. Usually you don't want the hi-hat to be the loudest thing in the drum kit. If anything, a lot of times it's, if not the quietest thing, on the quiet side, right? The hi-hat should blend into the, when you're kind of mixing your levels, right? You're thinking, okay, how loud is the bass drum compared to the snare drum compared to the hi-hat? You want a nice mix, but a lot of times the hi-hat wants to be a little low compared to the bass drum and snare drum. Some of this depends on your style of music too, but okay, so lesson 5. So now this is the same as lesson 3 was, just with quarter notes in the hi-hat instead of 8th notes. And again, as always, 4 and 5 will both be down in the doobly-doo. So you can either download and print them out or look at them on your device or whatever, and follow along. It's not a bad idea to just watch the lesson first and kind of absorb how things sound before you worry about how things look. If I was giving you a sheet of music, well, you don't even know how it sounds. You have to get how it sounds from the page. Here, since I'm assuming you're more comfortable playing than reading, the way to get more comfortable with reading is to play or hear it played and then to look at it and kind of connect how it sounds with how it looks. And that's how you'll get better. And eventually you will just start from scratch. You know, maybe you'll, in a couple months, you'll download the lesson first and you'll see if you can play it, and then you'll watch the video and see if you got it right? So, but for now, feel free to listen first and then worry about reading them. But as always, like I say, down below, doobly-doo. So let me run through these really quick. I think they're all, again, it's just those couple elements, right? We're working on these patterns so you can have practice at doing each of these patterns in a musical kind of way. And, you know, to a certain extent, these are simple variations, but sometimes simple variations are what music is all about, right? Sometimes the difference between two songs is very subtle, but they come across very different. Okay, number 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And number 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And sort of the same thing with the 8th note version. If you can play number 6, you should be able to play any of the previous ones because all you're doing is leaving out bass drum notes, right? If you can play number 6, you can play all the possible notes. We're just leaving some out. So sometimes number 6 can be a good one to work on if you're having trouble with some of the other patterns, just to see how it sounds to put the bass drum in between the hi-hat. Okay, and 7 through 11 are our 2-bar patterns. Number 7. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 9. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 10. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And finally, number 11. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then lastly, I'll play them all 4 times each and go on, which will mean 7 through 11 is going to be 8 measures of each, right? Because 4 times 2 is 8, and they're a 2-bar pattern, okay? And a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so tackle those at as many different tempos as you can. Play them louder, play them softer. Try to get used to this feel, right, of playing quarter notes with 1/8 notes on the bass drum in between. This is going to unlock 16th notes for us, and I'll explain that to you in an upcoming lesson. But that's going to wrap us up for today. Remember to print out the handouts down below. I hope you're following along with the drum pad lessons on Wednesdays too, because these are really kind of going tandem, hand in hand, right? What we do on the drum set, we're gonna circle us back to the drum pad, and what we do on the drum pad a lot of times is setting us up for what we're doing on the drum set. So if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. I'll understand if you didn't like it and you leave a thumbs down. Please subscribe to the channel, it really helps. It helps YouTube kind of let people know that, let YouTube know that people are watching and liking. If you are really excited about my new content, hit the little notification bell, and then you'll get a notification anytime I go live or upload a new video. You can also hit me up on Facebook and Instagram. I am Penny Larson Drums at both of those. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave a question down below. If you do have a question, please leave a timestamp. These lessons are pretty long, and I've had a few questions that I haven't totally understood the question, and that always makes me feel really bad because I feel like I can't answer it, and that makes me sad. But feel free to leave questions, comments, you know, and I will try to. I definitely read them all, and I get back to as many as I can. Okay, but that's going to wrap us up for today. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you are practicing, and I hope you are finding the lessons challenging and helpful. And I will see you next week. All right. I love you guys. Bye.